Good morning, Mets fans, and welcome to a Monday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. Today's episode of Driving with Mr. Met is sponsored by Samuel L. Jackson, whose favorite word was the word that Mickey Callaway came up with yesterday after yet another terrible loss in a game the Mets should have won. It is their 17th blown save of the year, and I am at the point where I'm now ready to move on from Mickey Callaway. I'm going to talk about yesterday's game, the weekend set with the Cubs, and the start of a new series tonight in Philadelphia on today's show. Unlike Mickey Callaway, I am a gentleman and I will not use such horrible language. But Mickey Callaway had some choice words for Tim Healy of Newsday after yesterday's loss. Which is funny because Mets fans have had some choice words for Mickey Callaway and his inability to react to anything before the shit hits the fan. And it happened again yesterday. So let's just jump right into it because I'm done with Mickey Callaway after yesterday. I'm finished. He's got to go. As far as I'm concerned, he's got to go. So what happened? Anybody watch yesterday's game? It was fun. It actually wasn't a bad game, a typical 2019 Mets game where they were in the game till the 7th inning, 8th inning, and then the bullpen came in and destroyed everything. Today's culprit was Seth Lugo, who admitted after the game that he didn't have any feel for his pitches. He felt like of the 42 pitches he threw, he said something like 2 or 3 felt good, which is a complete contradiction to what Mickey Callaway said to reporters after the game, where he said, "I thought he had good stuff." It reminds me of a really underrated movie called Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino, and Al Pacino does like a terrible Southern accent in it at one point, and that's what I just did. But that was like the Mickey Callaway like doofus kind of Southern accent, and it's the accent that Keanu Reeves tries to pull off in the whole movie too. But regardless, Mickey saw Seth Lugo yesterday, something that no one else apparently saw, because as all of us were watching the game, either in the stadium or in the dugout or at home, we could all see the same thing. Seth Lugo did not have it yesterday. In fact, you could argue that once he was able to get out of the 7th inning, you should have counted your blessings there, because he didn't have his best stuff in the 7th inning either. And then what do? After literally watching that happen and basically throwing the Hail Mary and actually having it completed, you send him back out for the next inning? I mean, come on, Mickey. What game are you watching? What game are you watching that we're not? First-year manager, last year, he made mistakes like this. We gave him a pass because he was a first-year manager. He's learning on the job. Okay. Second year, though? Come on, dude. At what point are you going to start learning that this is the way the game goes, and that you either have to adapt before something terrible happens, or something terrible is going to happen, as has happened 17 times with this horseshit bullpen that the Mets have. And yesterday, Seth Lugo was the culprit. But I'm not blaming Seth Lugo, because guess what? Seth Lugo, without anything, was able to navigate one inning. And anyone worth anything as a manager or a bench coach or a pitching coach or a freaking TV watching fan at home could see that Seth Lugo had no business going out for the 8th inning. But that's not even the worst of it. No, that's not even the worst of it. The worst of it was that Edwin Diaz stood in the bullpen after having not pitched in a couple of days. Stood in the bullpen, but he couldn't be used to get more outs than just the 3. "We save him for the 9th inning," Mickey said. "We didn't get a chance to use him today because you screwed up, Mickey." The Mets didn't get a chance to use their best weapon out of the bullpen because the manager, who was supposed to be progressive with this sort of stuff, is set in the late 1990s and early 2000s, where the closer has to pitch in the 9th inning. Sorry, but the closer should pitch, the best pitcher should pitch in the highest leverage situation, as I have discussed multiple times on this show over the past 2 years. The closer is your best bullpen pitcher. Now, you could argue that Seth Lugo's been better. You might be right. But Edwin Diaz is just as good. And, excuse me, the day before, he looked freaking fantastic at Wrigley Field. Sorry, Friday that was. That was the guy the Mets traded for. The guy who went out there and threw three fantastic, faced three batters, the minimum, retired all three, struck out two. That's the Mets. That's the guy the Mets traded for. That's the guy who's the best closer in baseball. That's the performance he just gave you on Friday night. And instead of going back to him and letting him try to get 6 outs, you shit the bed again, Mickey. You shit the bed again. And then out of sheer frustration after the game, and I get it, believe me, I get the frustration. But admit that you're wrong. Stop lying. Stop back-talking. Stop saying, wasn't available for 5 outs. Might have considered him for 4 outs, though. Wasn't available for 5 outs. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Once again, the Mets were on the precipice of taking a big series on the road, and Mickey Callaway screwed it up. So guess who gets a GOAT for yesterday's game? It isn't Seth Lugo, because Seth Lugo did his job in the 7th inning. The manager's job was to realize that Seth Lugo didn't have what it took to go back out for the 8th, and he sent him back out there anyway. So that big fat L from yesterday gets hung around Mickey Callaway's neck. And at this point, I am finished, officially, with Mickey Callaway, because I have never seen anyone so inadaptable and so rigid in his ways. That's probably not true, but that's how I feel at this moment. There are probably others who would be far more rigid. But look, wasn't this the guy that brought in Andrew Miller, or that taught Andrew Miller to be the effective pitcher in the 6th, 7th inning? You know, when perhaps the most dangerous situation in the game might rear its head? No, but you got to protect that lead in the 9th. That's way more important. And if it wasn't bad enough that happened, in the bottom half of the 9th, with the Mets now trailing 2 runs, you double switch Jeff McNeil in the inning before, but he doesn't get a chance to bat. Literally your best batter on the team by a landslide. The best guy who has the best chance to get on base and bring the tying run to the plate in a 2-run game is due up 5th in the inning. Instead, you pinch hit Dom Smith in the spot where Jeff McNeil should have been batting as being inserted into the game. Whatever. I mean, again, this is manager 101. This is something that, again, as a first-year manager, I'll give you a bit of a break. Give you a pass. Switching leagues even. Coming from the AL to the NL, I'll give you a pass. But the pass is done. All right, the pass is over. The free ride is finished. Mickey Callaway has to be accountable for what he's done and what he has not done. And it's time for the Mets to move on. And frankly, I think the outburst after the game yesterday is going to lead to his firing. They're going to use that as the reason to fire him. Of course, the conspiracy theorist in all of us, and myself included, is that the Wilpons won't fire him because then they have to pay his, the rest of his salary. Which, I don't understand how this money is guaranteed. I don't know why it's guaranteed. If you're terrible, if you apply for a job, right? Any job. Now, I understand this is a contract, it's not a job, right? But if you apply for a job and you say you're one thing and you show up for work and you're not that thing, you get shit canned, you get fired for not doing your job, but not in baseball. Now, you can be as terrible as you could possibly be, and there is nothing the team can do other than eat the contract, other than eat the money they promised to pay you. And that sucks. That sucks. I really, 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 really wanted to give Mickey Callaway the benefit of the doubt. I have too many times. And I'm done with him. And I'm curious to see how this week unfolds. I'm curious to see how he handles the media today. He's got to feel pretty shitty. I mean, really. Because it clearly the frustration is mounting for him. Clearly he has to realize that he made a mistake again. But dude, own it. Stop lying. Stop bullshitting. You're not good at it. Tell the truth. Be honest. Say you screwed up. I'm telling you, the day that he said, when he took Syndergaard out of that game, that was one of the best days he's ever had. And he was awful in the game. He was terrible. But guess what? He admitted that he made a mistake. He admitted that he was human and that he made a mistake. That's a much better way to deal with something like the screw-up that was yesterday than lying about it and saying, oh, he wasn't available for 5 outs. Maybe could have got him for 4, but we didn't get the chance. Yeah, thanks. We all saw it, Mick. Good job. Again, manager's job. Put team in best position to win. Mickey is doing the opposite. He is putting this team not in a position to win, but in a position to not win. And I said it to my dad yesterday. I texted him after the game, and I said, I really think the Mets would be 10 games over 500 if they had a competent manager. I really do. And I've said before, I don't think the manager has that much to do with the team's success or failure. But man, when they are as egregiously bad as Mickey has been at times this year, he has got to go. Because in a division that's still winnable, you cannot give up games like you've been giving up. You cannot lose a game every week that you should win, but that you don't win because either your manager's too stupid to know what to do, or your bullpen's too terrible to get the job done. Well, that was fun. Fun little rant. So the Mets end up splitting in Chicago. You know, which before the games were played and how this whole thing unfolded, if you had said the Mets are going to split with the Cubs over the 4-game weekend series, you'd be like, I'll take that. I'll sign up for that. But then when you watch the freaking games and you realize they could have easily won 3 out of 4, and frankly should have won 3 out of 4, the split just feels awful. Feels awful. And again, it's not the first time it's happened this year, and it probably won't be the last time, and it sucks. So, speaking of things that suck, the Phillies, the Mets are in Philly now for a series with the former first place Phillies. They are on a Mets-like tailspin right now. They are, I believe the word is awful. They've been terrible over the last 2 to 3 weeks. They have fallen to like 5 games out of first place. It's just been a complete free fall. I read their record over the last like 20 games or so, and it's really bad. Again, it's like a Mets June 2018 bad, where they've won like 5 games and lost 18 or something like that. It's a really bad record, so you know, there's 2 ways to look at this. So they just got swept by the Marlins. The Phillies did. So you can look at this as a team that rallies together and says, we can't lose again. We have to rebound from this terrible series sweep by the Marlins. And they come in with the Mets coming into town, and they have a we have to win kind of attitude, and they grin and bear it and take the series from the Mets because they can't stand the way they've been playing and the way they've been losing. Or you could look at it a different way and say, this team is in a free fall. The Mets need to take advantage of that. What do you think is the likely outcome? I know what I think. I know what I want, but I've watched this team long enough to know that it's going to be the former. It's not going to be the latter. The Phillies are going to bust out in a big way in this series with the Mets, and it's going to lead to Mickey Callaway's firing. That's my prediction, which will make next weekend's 69 season 50th anniversary a whole lot of fun with the turmoil that's surrounding this team. This sort of shit wouldn't happen with a guy like Gil Hodges running the ship. Just so everyone's clear about that. Anyway, that'll wrap it up for today. It's enough ranting and raving. It's been long enough. I will be back tomorrow to talk about tonight's game, see what Mickey Callaway says and does to make good on what he did yesterday, his immature and inappropriate behavior. And I'll be curious to see if Jason Vargas gets punished for his actions as well. So, I'll be back tomorrow to talk about it on another edition of Drive with Mr. Met. Thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. And as always, why the hell not? Let's go MFing Mets.